The championship games are set, and there's a ton to talk about today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you all for listening and making this your first listen. We really, truly do appreciate that. And we are part of the #1 sports podcast network in the United States, the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you all for that. We really do truly appreciate that. And there is so much to talk about. But before we get there, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We're going to talk about the national championship game that will happen on Monday night, some of the prospects that could be available a little bit later. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel, which keeps spinning currently. But we're going to talk about these teams that are set for the conference championships. And I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. He is Ryan Tracy from RGR Football and Rogue Analytics and NFL 33. Lots to talk about. Ryan, I will kick it off to you. Which game do you want to talk about first?
Man, honestly, the only dud of the weekend, I was not prepared for the Seahawks to come out and smack the 49ers around like that. I was honestly really, really surprised. I was hopeful because I was a Sam Darnold guy when he was in college, and I thought that he could make it in the league. And just to have his early career crushed by the Jets, I'm here for the Sam Darnold revival, basically. And I know they didn't have to rely on him in this game because of the way that it flowed, and obviously with Kenneth Walker, who we'll talk about in free agency and next week and the week after that and everything else. It didn't have to be a Sam Darnold game, but I'm happy he's getting there. And I do think he will have to play a strong part yet again, as he has this season, in getting them to the next step.
Yeah, and they're going to be facing off against the Rams, who they've split with this season, 1-1. Each of them have a win, so we'll see how that ends up turning out. But, you know, you look at the Rams game, you look at the Rams and the Bears, that game comes down to overtime. You had a couple of games that came down to overtime in the playoffs. This, in the going into championship weekend, can't ask for much more in at least two of the games. I will say, while it wasn't necessarily a dud, so to speak, with the Patriots and the Texans, it still wasn't a great game. CJ Stroud shows that he continues to regress, and it's going to be real interesting as an offseason in Houston because that defense is phenomenal. And for him to continue playing the way he is playing right now, you have to wonder, are they going to pay him? Because right now he is available for a contract extension. Are they going to pay him right now? Do you pay him now? Because it's going to be cheaper now than waiting? Or are you going to actually go and make him try to earn it next year and risk having to pay him a lot more?
I'd pay him now because I think he'd be on the cheap, especially given these couple of performances. Yep. And I will tell you this, as much as you might have a concern, I do think the play caller and the development coach for the position is also partly at fault here. And I do think you can make some changes and try to correct that ship. I think CJ Stroud can still hit his upside. And I'm not the only one. His teammates believe, and that's super important, especially when Will Anderson is ready to come to bat for you with the press and everybody else. That tells you what this team believes. And so I don't think it's over for CJ in any fashion. I think he came up against a calm, somewhat experienced team in the right ways, and yet still had the blend of the young quarterback. And folks, they're going to tell you all up and down about how great Vrabel was as a Patriot back in the day. Well, remember, he was a Chief for a while too. So let's just keep that in mind. And I am super impressed. And the Tennessee Titans have to be kicking themselves because they had this guy this long. And he just needed to be able to run his ship and have things the way that he needed them and have the personnel department follow his lead. I'm really impressed with what he's been able to do with a team that I didn't think would be able to be this good this fast.
Yeah, and it's surprising. I'm still going to be curious to see if they can continue and they have another good game plan. I will say, and we'll talk about the Broncos game here in just a minute, and really what the surprising news of the weekend to me was. But to see May play the way he did today, He looked cool, calm, and collected. He made throws when he absolutely needed to, and he was making some really big-time throws at different times that really impressed me, especially against a guy like Derek Stingley Jr., who didn't get picked on very much, but gave up one of the biggest plays of the game late in the game. So you look at how that turned out, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying CJ Stroud needs to go in Houston. The one thing that he has going for him above anything else is this is a QB-driven league, and there's only probably maybe 10 that should really be paid like top quarterbacks. I would still say he's probably in that category. Whether or not he should be paid top 5 money is a whole different argument, and something that I'm sure Houston will be having a conversation about over the next couple of weeks. But when you look at the Broncos game and you look at the Bills, obviously you're sitting here in a situation where you're thinking, okay, Josh Allen is going to go find a way to get a win in Denver, go to the AFC Championship game, and have a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
You can no longer say that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are the only nemesis the Bills have. It's the whole AFC West at this point. I honestly didn't expect it to be so, I think, fraught. I thought Bo Nix was playing very good ball, and I've been a Bo Nix guy since he was at Oregon. So it is difficult for me to watch him play well for the Broncos, but I think he was ascending. To have that injury, literally a play before the game's over, that's insanity.
You have to go and break it like that. I was going to talk about that in a second, but
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, the injury, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but you look at how the Broncos played in that game. They didn't play great, but they played well enough, and their defense was good enough to take the ball away from Josh Allen. And for everything you've talked about Josh Allen and his ability to look like a superstar at times and be the league MVP and do this and do that, to have that many turnovers in a game against the Broncos where this is your best opportunity to get to a Super Bowl that you've ever had because you don't have 15 on the other sideline going against you, that's a pretty big choke job. Just going to say it. And I know McDermott is saying a lot of things and was still saying a lot of things after the game and even on the plane home. There will be conversations about that. I will be very curious to see if McDermott is still the coach in Buffalo, because I do think that there's a problem there that they should probably address, because I don't think that he's ever going to get them where they need to go, where they want to go. But back to your point on Nix, I will say this. I don't understand the play call that put him in the position to get him hurt. That is not a play design that I would be thinking that I'd be trying to run in overtime with your quarterback running basically an end around.
Yeah, I agree. There's something to be said for catching the opponents off guard. There's another thing to take risks that I don't think you really need to do, especially when it's colder climate, et cetera, as we get longer in the year. I probably would have skipped that myself, but I do think that you have a very good point, and we're going to see what the future holds for Sean McDermott. I mean, he may be part of the coaching carousel that is spinning out of control right now.
That definitely could be, and it will be very interesting if it ends up being McDermott out and another coach coming in. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel around the NFL and around the Chiefs right after this.
Hey, guys, the draft picks are in. They're set for so many teams. They're looking for a franchise quarterback. If you ever wish to become a QB yourself, getting drafted first overall by the Chiefs, or like this year, the actual Raiders, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you. Ultimate QB football legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of number one draft pick. It's your job to lead your team to greatness. The number one career mode game on mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment for a full career control. You sign contracts, train, upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and evolve with your teammates. Give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise up the ranks to become a pro football legend. Ultimate QB is totally free. There's no ads. It works 100% offline. Perfect for you want to sneak a quick game in or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search Ultimate QB in your favorite app store. We've got something special for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON in all caps in the game store, and you'll get a free boost to start your career at Ultimate QB, the football legend QB1. It's your legacy. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge, but with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops actions almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks let you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports events even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on Prize Picks is quick and simple. The app is super easy to navigate. You can get to whatever you're looking for, NFL, NBA, etc. Super, super simple, and that makes it easy. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup goes up. At Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Thank you for making Locked On Chiefs your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to ad-free audio for Locked On Chiefs compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And go check it out. Ryan and I are in there talking to the members of that Discord server. So we really do appreciate the time and the effort. Go to lockedonchiefs.supercasts.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Now, coaching carousel, we kind of started talking about that as we headed into this one. But the reality is McDermott could be another guy that gets added to that list of guys that could be out of a job. And I do want to be clear, I think it would be rightfully so to be out of a job because, yes, you have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen didn't play great in this game, but there have been many times where I think McDermott has been more at fault than Josh Allen, specifically the 13-second game. You made some poor decisions down the stretch in that game as a coach that cost your team the chance at a victory. I actually saw that on YouTube the other day, and rewatching that for just a moment, you watch them kick the ball off and take no time off the clock at all. If they take 2 seconds off, it completely changes everything.
Yep. And I agree. There's definitely been some faux pas, especially given he's defensive-minded coach. That's what he comes from. And generally, I like that. But when you don't have the overall command of that room and you leave everything to your offensive coordinators, I do think sometimes that can get away from you. And I agree. I think there is a possibility that here in the next day or two, or as we record this Sunday night, as you guys see this Monday, Sean McDermott could find himself out on that carousel. And that throws a couple of loops into people's ways. Because right now, I think Steve Spagnuolo is probably staying in Kansas City because the hiring of John Harbaugh, as well as the Stefanski thing, I don't think he's as in high demand in Tennessee as Matt Nagy is. So I do think right now it seems like Steve's coming back. But if a defensive coach got let go, and there is still the opportunity in Baltimore, I think a defensive-minded head coach might be somebody that the Bills got interested in if they let McDermott go. I'm not convinced that these owners that have hired defensive-minded coaches want to automatically switch to young offensive-minded guys all the time.
And that's fair, but you have one of the best players in football. I would say, I don't know where you'd rate Josh Allen. He's easily top 5 in the NFL. I'm not going to get into a conversation as to where exactly in the top 5, but he's easily top 5. So do you want to put him with a defensive-minded head coach so you can try to get somebody that's going to take care of the other side of the ball and let him have an offensive coordinator and a QB coach and be hands-off? That could make a lot of sense because it's not a young quarterback anymore. It's not like you're a guy. It's not like you are trying to bring up a guy like Drake May or and that's kind of a funny situation because Vrabel is a defensive-minded guy. It's a little bit, you look at it from that perspective, but you look at D'Amico Ryans with the Houston Texans as another example of a young quarterback with a defensive-minded head coach, and that one doesn't seem to be working as well. Yet Drake May seems to be working very well with Mike Vrabel, but you have a veteran quarterback in Buffalo, so I do think that it doesn't necessarily matter if you go offense or defense. It'll be interesting to see. I would expect that McDermott should be out, but who knows? The big thing to me, and I think as much as this is a money-driven league and the NFL is a money-driven league, the fact that they're getting ready to open a new stadium and they choked again, they lost again in the divisional game, makes you wonder if this is when they're going to look at it and say, we may sell more seats if we don't have the same coach next year.
That's true. That's true. And you're right. I think Josh can, and I think for Josh himself, I do think there is an argument to be made that he has a lot more input into who the offensive coordinator is than maybe he has in the past. For exactly that reason, he is now a mature quarterback. I think the fact that he was so emotional and raw on the podium, I think that says a lot about his maturation, to tell you the truth, because I think he realized just what an opportunity you had to not have to go through Patrick Mahomes, and to miss that. I think that's what he realized there. And I also think that the defensive scheme in Buffalo has grown stale, has gone downhill, and does need to be refreshed. So I don't think that necessarily changes anything for Steve Spagnuolo. They might have some interest at that point. I do think that it keeps us on our toes as to what else is going on here. The best fit that I liked for the Chiefs OC was always a long shot, but I like Kevin Stefanski and what he could have done had he been able to work with Andy Reid. Obviously, that's not going to happen now that he's the coach in Atlanta. But I also have to say this: Stefanski is a guy that wants to emphasize the balance of the run game and the pass game. He wants to use tight ends. I think the hiring of Kevin Stefanski takes Pitts off of the market. I think they're going to re-sign him now because I think that's a piece that Stefanski wants to have. And I know a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom were hoping that they had a shot at Kyle Pitts, and I don't think that that's going to happen now.
I've been wanting Kyle Pitts for the past couple of seasons and wanting them to trade for him, but that never came to reality. We'll see whether or not that ends up being the case, but you still look at the rest of their coaching carousel, and at this point, the Bears are out. You're looking at the 49ers out. The Bills are out, and the Texans are out. So if you have any of those, if you have anybody on those staffs that you wanted to interview for a Chiefs offensive coordinator position, you could, or any other open position that the Chiefs may have, you could potentially. But Ryan Shilha, the passing game coordinator for the Rams, is playing in the NFC Championship game now. So if he was somebody you wanted to talk to, you're not going to get the opportunity, and could be another month before you get the opportunity at that point. A lot of different questions as to what direction they're going to go. I don't know that there's really anybody on the Bears staff that I would really be interested in bringing in for offensive coordinator. I know people have talked about Eric Bieniemy. I just don't see it. I just cannot see him back in Kansas City. So we'll see if anything comes about. But are there any names that you think of with the teams that just got eliminated?
I have to go check out their staffs and take another look at it. Obviously, people talk about Eric Bieniemy. I agree with you. I don't see that either. I think if Eric had wanted and the Chiefs had wanted Eric, they would have found a role for him as a senior run game coordinator or something like that. They could have had him, is my point, before he joined the Bears. And I think that was not an obstacle. So I agree. In terms of the rest of the staffs that were eliminated this week, I'd be intrigued to run down what's available out of San Francisco, but I'll have to take a look at those, and we'll do that again here maybe later in the week, or coming up when I'm back in February. So we'll take a look there. But you also have to have the players to go with the coaches, and that's what we have to get to. So National Championship for college football is coming, folks. You know a lot of names, so I'm going to give you some more to watch coming up next. Wildcard round is almost over, and we are ready to move on to the second round. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game, FanDuel gives users a way to get a profit boost pack waiting for them right inside the app. Each game day, you go see a pack with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to your bets anytime you want. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day, and you'll see what boost that you have available to apply. The boost can let you lean into game day instincts, whether you're backing and looking and trying to ride momentum or the defense or the quarterback play or exactly what the coaches are going to do because they just don't really like each other. There's a lot that goes on. You can make your picks and apply your profit boost to get even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost on every NFL playoff game day.
National championship prospects. And this is a different one because you have a team in Indiana who I don't know that many people would have picked them to make the national championship. Definitely not early in the season, maybe mid-season, but definitely not early in the season. And Miami playing at home, basically. This is going to be an interesting game.
I completely agree with you. And, Indiana's offense has been coming on with Kurt Cignetti, and I do think that has changed the complexion of their conference as well as this team. And for football fans, for Chiefs fans, the number one thing that you want to see is that Fernando Mendoza goes off because you want to keep him up above number 9. If he has a bad game, if there's already questions about whether he can really be the first overall pick, he is clearly, in my estimation, by everything that I've watched, the best quarterback available at this point, especially now that Dante Moore went back. I would have had more behind him anyway. But there is question whether the league sees whether he's worth a top 3 pick. And maybe there will be quarterback hungry teams, but they might trade up or something like that. You want him to have a good game so that he stays above the Kansas City Chiefs. It'd have to be a pretty phenomenal failure, in my opinion, because number one quarterback's going to go where number one quarterback goes, right? But he's not the only guy in here. Carson Beck is playing in this game as well. And a lot of people had written Beck off. And I don't think that is the right thing to do. I question when you win a couple of national championships and then you leave Georgia. But for him to take another team back to a national championship game is a significant thing. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Patrick said he's going to be back for week 1. And I know Patrick wants to be back for week 1. But if there's any way that you feel you have to take a quarterback in this draft, if you're Andy Reid and Brett Veach, I would say it should not be at the top of the draft, that it should be down lower in a region where you can pick up a player that has national championship experience at the college level, 2 different teams. That could be a value. It could also be a trade piece. Or the opportunity to pick him could be a trade piece, a better way to put that. So I think the quarterbacks are going to be prospects that actually change the way the Chiefs draft goes.
Leave it to Kansas City to have top picks in years that there aren't very many quarterbacks, because let's not forget 2013, there wasn't a single quarterback that went in the first round. The only time I think that the Chiefs have ever had the number 1 overall pick, and they have to take left tackle Eric Fisher. Worked out okay for him, not going to complain, but there was no QB that was worth it. And now you have Mendoza. What was that?
No one would trade.
Yeah, and now you have Mendoza, and I would expect with the Raiders on the clock, number 1, I would think that Mendoza is going to be a Raider. I cannot see a situation where he's not. But the Raiders don't have a coach yet, so a lot of questions as to how that's going to play out. And maybe they go find something, and maybe they don't like Mendoza. Maybe they end up deciding, hey, we don't like Mendoza. We'll go sign a veteran for a year and trade back and try to get first-round picks or a bunch of first-round picks for next year. Yeah. We'll see what they do, but there's got to be some other guys. And really quick, since you did mention Carson Beck, what round do you think he would be drafted in?
I think a lot of people have been holding him down into day 3, which I guess could still happen. given that he's made this game, and I think he has an opportunity to play pretty well, and he's going to have to, in my opinion, he's going to have to throw the ball a lot if they're going to keep up. So I think he could pull himself into the top 100 here pretty easily. And I think he probably goes on day 2 at this point. But he's not alone. As you said, there's a number of players, and the Terror Twins are going to be the guys that everybody wants to watch, as you well should. Reuben, Bain, and Akeem Messidor are the 2 premier pass rushers in this game, one of which could end up in Kansas City. I know a lot of people want Bain. I doubt he falls to 9 right now. He is, I think, the premier front 7 player in terms of being able to get to the quarterback.
So to be clear, do you care about his arms?
I do. I have trepidation about it. The thing that countermands that is that he has shown a propensity. He can go inside and win as well. So he can rush as a 3-tech. I think that versatility actually plays into what Spags wants. So I do think that makes him more attractive to the team. While I might be a little concerned about it, I think to the coaching staff, I think that makes him more attractive. But his partner in crime is an older prospect. He's a super senior. And he plays with the same intensity. They are both Bash brothers. Like, they come at you with physicality and aggression. Not the most refined movement, not a ton of counters, not, the most extensive cross-chop setup and that kind of thing. They are power players, and I think that is something to keep in mind there. The opposite is true on their offensive line. A guy that a lot of people have been mocking to Kansas City of late is the right tackle, Noah, who I think has more than a significant chance to move inside to guard at the next level. While I do think he is a good player, and I think he can stay at tackle, I don't think he fits what the Chiefs want to do, meaning mostly outside zone run and more vertical pass setting. I don't think he's exactly the best match for what the Chiefs want right now.
Yeah, and the key on that is it would be for a right tackle position, because you already have your left tackle for the future, and you technically probably already have your starting right tackle already on the roster in Jalen Moore as of right now, which I will say, though, should not preclude you from drafting a tackle if you find yourself with the best player on the board being a tackle. Because of all things I want them to do, it's protect Patrick Mahomes. That is what I want, number one. And I feel like your front 4 from left to right guard, from left tackle to right guard, you feel really good about. Kingsley Suamataia has struggled early on the season, but got better as the year went on. And I'm not going to say was a top guard, but was very good towards the end of the season compared to where he started and compared to what I expected. I thought he played very good at the end of the year. So I'm excited to see what year 2 would be with him at left guard. And obviously, Simmons at left tackle. And then you look at, your right tackle position. And I still think if you find a right tackle, or if you find a guy that you think can play right tackle, you draft him, because you saw what happened this year.
Yep.
And you saw what happened in 2024. Injuries happen. And
even on top of that might be the value pick at this point. If the pass rushers are gone, the guy's name is Fernando. He's an extremely, I think, the best tackle in this draft. He's a right tackle as well. He's out of Utah. He's not playing in this game. In this game, the other players that I think you need to watch are Keontae Scott, the DB from Miami. I will keep an eye on him. He has a nose for the ball. He's made a big play already in this postseason for the college ranks. Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver from Indiana, I do think he could look kind of nice in this particular offense. There's some that think he will stay in the second round. Some that feel he's ascending into the first. With the Chiefs having number 40 right now, it might be a stretch, but something to consider there. There is another tackle down later, Carter, from Indiana, that I think could be a fit as well, especially if you're not investing your top pick in it. That could come. And the last is another DB from Indiana, D'Angelo Pons, who I think can be versatile inside out, kind of the thing that Spags like, physical kid. I do think I'd keep an eye on him as well. That's the prospects you got to watch on Monday night's game.
So if you're Kansas City and Bain is sitting there at 9, are you taking him?
Probably. 60-40. I need to see exactly what he measures out at. I'm hearing he's sub 31. which for an edge, the history says they will not hit. That's my concern. But he can go inside and he can rush in there as well. He is a guy that plays with the right attitude and the right physicality. So I do like him. I truly don't think that he will be on the board there at 9, though.
Oh, you think he'll be gone?
How
high do you think he'll be gone?
I think there's a possibility he goes in the top 5.
Well,
there's also a possibility he goes in the middle of the second round for all I know. There are teams that I know have him as a second rounder, a non-top 32 in this draft.
Is that because of measurables?
Yes, because of the arm length in particular.
Yeah. We don't talk about it a lot on this show, but there are some teams, and quite frankly, the entire NFL to an extent really does look at all those measurements. It's one of the reasons why it's such a huge day in the combine, because they get all these measurements, they get all this information about players that they don't have. And I will say this, I know it's a completely different position. It doesn't relate necessarily to Bain, but when you look at what McDuffie's struggling with in the NFL, and one of the things he's always struggled with is he has short arms and he is not tall. That has been something that he cannot overcome when it comes to specific players. So that becomes a question. Is this measurement going to change what Bain, where he could go in this draft and how it could play in for Kansas City?
It definitely could. And I will say that the other thing to remember is the draft is a cycle most years where you get results on the field, you see the film, you understand what a player is, and then all the measurables come and the stories change and players get dropped and players get raised. 9 times out of 10 players go back to where they were based on their performance on the field. And Bain is an absolute murder row leader on that Miami defense.
Yeah. And that it would be something that would be huge in Kansas City. But the other thing that I will say when you start looking at that is, even if he can't go to Kansas City at 9, him going in the top 5 actually helps Kansas City because it pushes somebody else down. And we'll see who's going to be available. That's a conversation we're going to have another day. But that's going to be it for us today. A lot more to talk about later this week. We're going to have Matt on Wednesday. Going to talk a little bit more, probably talk a little bit about the draft a little bit more later this week. Thank you all for listening today. We really do truly appreciate it. Go check out the Everydayer Club again. Go check it out at lockedonchiefs.supercast.com. Go join the Everydayer Club. Go find Ryan and I and talk to us on Discord. And we will talk to you tomorrow.